Hey everybody, how's it going? Today we have a few things to discuss regarding the car that's right behind me. First things first, we got weight reduction, followed by a history lesson of the car and the current status of where we're at. Now I'm going to give you guys an inside tip here, okay? Any real racer knows that when it comes to weight reduction, the first thing you need to do is tackle the problem of your own weight. And I've done just that, okay? Alright guys, let's tone it down a bit. Okay. So yeah, that's what we did here. We've buzzed my head. We also have another form of weight reduction that we've done, and now that we're at the car, we're going to tackle the heaviest part. Everybody knows that the engine is the most heavy part that's in the car, and if you could reduce as much weight from the engine as possible, then you're going to make a faster race car. So if I can open this hood. The hood's not even attached to the car. That's how much weight reduction we've done.
It was at this moment he knew. He f***ed up.
And as you guys can see, take a good look there. So we've done everything we can to remove as much weight from the engine bay as possible, and what that resulted in is actually removing the engine itself. You really can't get much weight reduction than that. Yeah. Now that you guys have seen how serious we are with this build, going where no other race car has gone before with this form of weight reduction, we're going to go into the point in this car's build history where this monumental decision was made. All you, Professor Sevon. Hello everybody and welcome to class. Today we're going to be covering the history of my 86. You may notice a large duck here holding a rather larger metal shaft. Don't mind that for now, it'll make more sense as we move on. So, at the beginning, we have the tofu box. Sevon is very happy. Everything is running well. Engine has apparently been rebuilt by the previous owner, and there are no complaints. For an 80s car, it's a very solid chassis, and everything's looking good. Moving on, about a month into ownership, we have what's called the Great Spilling. And what that really was oil from the engine, transmission, and differential. We got a three-way all over the driveway. So not place you want to have oil, and starting to look concerned here. Hey, you spent a top dollar, you paid the Takumi tax, you paid the California tax, you paid the drift tax, you paid the hatchback tax, you paid the GTS tax. We got tax everywhere here. This is California, baby. So, not looking too happy. Gonna have to take it to a mechanic because leaks aren't my thing, you know? I'm more of a dry type of guy. So, take it to a mechanic. Now there's a lot that happens before stage 3 and after stage 2 here. After we've taken the car to a mechanic, now I'm not going to name any names here. We're going to keep this nice and civil, but I'll present the facts and you can make your own conclusions from those facts. So, we took the car to a mechanic who was supposed to fix our oil. So we took the car to a mechanic who was supposed to fix the oil leaks. It was determined that the head gasket would also need to be replaced, so I figured since the head was going to be opened that we would also upgrade the cams. We went with Tomei Pon cams, which are a well-known cam for this car. It's a drop-in cam, no tune required, pretty much an OE plus replacement, and it's a quality part. It's a bit expensive, but totally worth it. Went with that, we plopped that in. Also, since the transmission and the differential needed to be serviced as well, we went ahead and upgraded the differential to a 1.5-way OS Geekin unit. Rather expensive, but upon a lot of research, it was determined that it was the best choice for this build. We're not cutting any corners, we're going all the way. So, differential has been upgraded. Next up, the transmission. Transmission had to be taken out of the car and rebuilt as well. I sourced a kit from a user off of Club 4AG, which is still around, by the way. And we went with a brand new M Factory 5th gear, as well as a 4.7 Weir final drive to tie up the rear end and attach that to the transmission. Sorry, Professor, we have some breaking news in the form of Instagram DM. The DM states that the body kit we ordered nearly 2 years ago may be ready for shipping within this month. We've received these empty promises before in the past, but this new message directly from the source exudes some confidence and may rekindle a bit of hope that we seem to have lost. We'll relay any news and updates as soon as they arrive. Back to you, Professor. Next up, we addressed all of the oil leaks that were with that old engine. So the oil pan, the head gasket, we also had some other leaks. This is where things start to get a little bumpy. After all the things that I've described so far, we spent a few $1,000s on upgrades. We've gone with quality parts and worthwhile upgrades. You know, you're gonna actually feel these upgrades. I was really happy, got the car back. First thing I noticed is spewing oil all over the driveway again. What's going on? Called the mechanic. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, oh, sorry, man. Take the car back. Don't have the car again for a few weeks. Does his work, fixes up the oil leaks apparently. Bring the car back home, same deal. Oil's leaking all over the place. And I'm talking about within minutes of being home. Brought the car home, it's sitting in the driveway, and look under the car and like a sprinkler all over the driveway.
Disappointed!
Call the guy up again. Hey man, it's leaking oil again. He's like, sorry man, bring it over. Brought the car back to him. Now, mind you, his shop is over an hour away from where I live. So it's not easy going with two cars, dropping one off, driving back. So I've got my dad to thank a lot for helping me out throughout this entire process. So dropped the car off. I believe this is the third or fourth time. Said, please make sure that everything is okay. Few weeks goes by, calls me up, says car is ready to go. Drive out again, see the car. It's making some weird noises now. We've got some weird chatter coming in from the gearbox area. That may be due to what I forgot to mention, which is the Toda flywheel that we upgraded to. Very high quality part. It's a lighter flywheel. Should make the car, again, more peppy, and that's the goal with this. I know it's not going to be a fast car, but we can make it fun. So there was some chatter coming from that area, which we thought might be the flywheel. And then moving on to the rear end, the differential, the OS Geekin 1.5, which is known to be a quietly operating differential, was making some really loud noises. And when I mean loud, I mean gigantic metal scraping against concrete, dropping from the sky type of noises. People across the street on the other side of the road would like turn their heads and be like, what is that noise, dude? Is your car gonna blow up? Should we be running in the opposite direction? I was sitting in the car like, I hope not. So yeah, those noises were happening, and I was told there might be a break-in period for this differential, that the chatter might go away from the front of the car, or it just might be a side effect of having a lighter weight flywheel because of the whole balancing scenario. There's no backing plate. I don't know all the details, but I went along with it. I said, okay, there might be a break-in period. This is where we arrive at step 3. So step 3 is me driving the car for 30 miles after I brought it home. That's where we have this climax of the story here. So with all stories, if you're new to English, you need to have an introduction, and then don't quote me, I'm not an English teacher, and then rising action, and then this is where we're at right here. This is the climax. And then resolution and ending point, which is where I wish I was right now. So you can imagine how I'm feeling at this point. I've spent thousands upon thousands of dollars, put only the best parts that I could afford, which was not cutting corners by any means, being extremely patient throughout the weeks, months. I didn't have the car for 3 months or so. So, you know, I've done all the right things to build a project car, or so I thought. And getting it back and it blowing up within a few miles was just like, you know, kicking me while I'm down type of scenario. So I called the mechanic back up. I said, hey, this is what happened. Got the car towed back to his shop, where I was charged again to get the engine disassembled. And at this point, it was determined that the engine was a goner. We just knew that the third cylinder was a no-go. So he basically told me, hey, your block is toast. You should buy another block. At this point, I don't think anybody would blame me for not wanting to go to the same mechanic. So I found another shop that was going to do the engine work. And I knew at this point that the engine was toast, so I would have to buy another engine. I went and bought another engine from a user off of Facebook Marketplace of all places. Another big port, 7-rib 4AG motor. And I was told by the older gentleman that I picked it up from that the block was rebuilt. And this was an engine that I could just take, plop it into my car. Now, having gone through all of this, having spent all this money, I was like, I'm not going to drop it just in my car, but it's good to know that it's a rebuilt block because that's one less thing that I have to worry about. Now, I took it to another shop where these guys are professionals. They're 4AG experts. If I knew about them before, I probably would have taken my car there, but they don't work on the cars. They work on the engines themselves, and then you got to handle the actual installation yourself. So I guess that wouldn't have been an option at the time. Now, They opened up the engine, the new engine that I got, not the old one. And within 2 days, they told me, hey, this engine that you brought us is total garbage. The inside is all rusted out. There's a ton of corrosion. The metal has kind of bound itself together by being run at such a high heat. Can you imagine? The metal was running at such a high heat that parts of the metal bound together. They welded themselves together. What else? The block was cracked. There was a ton of issues. Now, I took all this information that I was provided by that shop and texted those images to the guy I just bought it from, an older Japanese gentleman. I texted it to him and I just said, hey, the engine that I just bought from you that you told me how to rebuild block, I took it to the shop and they opened it up and they told me this. And I showed him all the pictures and everything. And I guess he interpreted that as me accusing him of being a fraud or whatever, but that's not what I had said. I have records of it. If I ever needed to, I could prove that I was being very polite throughout the entire conversation. And I noticed that he was starting to use curse words and get angry over text. And I was like, look, how about I call you, because you're clearly not understanding what I'm trying to say here. So I called him and he just starts yelling at me again over the phone using curse words. And I'm like, look, man, if there's anybody that should be angry in this scenario, it's me. I paid top dollar for what was apparently a rebuilt motor, not to mention buying the original car that had a rebuilt engine. So, you know, I'm down 2 engines here and I got a car in my driveway that doesn't have an engine in it. So help me out here. I just bought something from you. You're not going to support what you just sold me less than a week ago? Ended that conversation and I guess he felt bad and supplied another motor to that shop. He apparently knew the owner of that shop. And this is where we arrive at step 4 here, where we have this extremely shiny and expensive looking engine. And this homeless guy right here is probably going to be me soon because this engine, it's got all the works. Okay, we've got custom forged pistons, we got custom connecting rods, full forged internals, fully built. We're upping the compression ratio. Still gonna pass smog, hopefully, fingers crossed, because we're not messing with anything on the outside. I'm still gonna be running the stock ECU and all that. And I know some people might say that's a waste, but I live in California, okay? People get pulled over for looking modified, not even sounding modified, looking modified. This recently happened to another YouTuber that I saw with their Evo. And you can get pulled over, the guy pops your hood, sends you to a ref, and you're done. And I didn't want to deal with that, especially with the amount of money I'm spending. Hey guys, I actually just got an update while editing this video from the shop that's rebuilding my motor. They also have my old motor, the one that blew up, and they were going through that to find out what caused this failure in the first place. What they've determined is that the guy that I bought the engine from, the one that had rebuilt the motor, he said he'd rebuilt the motor, he had failed to replace the oil squirters that go with each piston. Now, what those oil squirters do is they spray the cylinder walls and they make sure it's well lubricated and that the piston is getting enough oil. Without those doing their job, you're going to have excess heat, you're going to have oil starvation, and you're going to have a bunch of other issues that eventually lead to engine failure, which is what I've clearly experienced right now. So basically, this engine was pretty much destined to fail. It was just a matter of time, and it decided to take a few $1,000s and a few months of my life in the process. So yeah, I thought I'd throw that in there. I'll also include a picture of the aftermath, which is pretty funny actually. The bent rod and the twisted rod that shot the piston into the block. The shop sent me some photos and some information, so I'll share that with you guys as well. So back to the video. And that's where I'm currently at. I guess we kind of did reach the resolution point, but not quite. You know, we're right after that climax. We're still feeling a lot of tension, and we're hoping that it works out for the protagonist in the story, which would be nice. Now, I guess this will be, oh no, we forgot about the duck. Yeah, the duck. Yeah, so about the duck, I think I'll let your imagination handle that one. That's going to be it for today's lesson. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys like this type of video, I'm trying out different things for YouTube. Just seeing what sticks, what works, what people like and all that. If you guys like this type of thing, it's fun for me to make. I always love doing it. So just let me know down in the comments below, the likes, subscribe, all that stuff. We got a long way to go, even though the car has a lot of parts in it. It's not there yet. It doesn't have an engine. So stick around for the ride. Subscribing really helps the channel. We're really small right now, but I can definitely see this growing in the future. And guys, let's make this channel grow. Let's make this channel great again.